I
do the
will,
pledge, right?
nope, I'm just going to call the meeting to order first.
Okay.
And then if everyone could please stand for the
Yeah, we-
pledge. Where's the flag? I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. They forgot to bring the flag out.
I know. Forgot the water too, but, okay, so do you have your sheet up?
Yep.
Because we're going to do our oaths of office
Yep.
now, and Mr. Colbufo will call people up.
Okay. We will have Mr. Lucas. Pearl, you didn't give me an order.
Okay.
Pearl
Right
Horn,
here, and
the
actually,
district
they've
clerk,
got
will administer the oath of office to returning board members Allison Douglas.
Okay, if you'd raise your right hand.
I, Allison Douglas, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New York, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of school board member according to the best of my ability.
Great, and you just sign there. and- So I need-
Pearl, I think that's a bad mic. It's got a lot of backbeat. You want to shut that off? I'll bring this one off. And now Pearl Horn will administer the oath of office to Kenneth Sherman.
I got you.
I, Kenneth Sherman, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New York, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of school board member according to the best of my ability.
And now Pearl Horn, the district clerk, will administer the oath of office to new board member Ryan Lucas.
Hold this up. I, Ryan Lucas, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New York, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of school board member according to the best of my ability. Sign here and here.
And now Pearl Horn, district clerk, will administer the oath of office to one of our student representatives, Evangeline Pluta. Our other Emma Rubar is here. Evangeline Pluta was not able to make it today. This is the first time we've had student board representatives, but the board was just really impressed with two of the candidates and decided it was also a good idea because sometimes they can't be at every one, but it gives them the opportunity to be able to talk to each other and then make a schedule on the ones they can come to. And they can divide and conquer to get even a larger voice among the student population. So with that, I will have Emma Rubar come up and take your oath.
Raise your right hand.
I, Emma Rubar, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New York, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of the office of Student Board Representative according to the best of my ability.
Okay, and now we're going to move to President of the Board. I did receive a letter of interest from Steve Patch and a nomination from Dave Tackman for Steve Patch. If there's no other nominations, if somebody could make a motion.
I'll motion.
There were 2 write-ins. Mary, what does that mean?
And then I just need a vote now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Thank you. Okay, Mr. Patch.
I'm ready. 2 things at once. I, Stephen Patch, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New York, and I will faithfully discharge the duties of the Office of Board of Election Education President according to the best of my ability.
We are. Thank you.
Thank you.
Then Mr. Patch will take the meeting over.
Okay. I have one. Now we will move on to the Vice President. And we have one person that put in for it, Christy Fishman. Anybody else interested? Can I get a motion? Second? All those, any discussion? All those in favor? Congratulations.
Emma, I'll send you the picture. You can hang it on your refrigerator. Do kids still do that? All right, there we go.
I don't know if it matters.
We do it at our house.
I don't know if it matters.
Okay, you ready?
All right. Yep. I, Christy Fishman, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New York, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of the Office of Board of Education Vice President according to the best of my ability. Thank you.
Hey, Christy.
I think we need to empty the dehumidifier in our office again. Look at this paper.
Okay, on to item E. Appointment of board officers. And this, can I get a motion to accept item E in its entirety? That would be for the district treasurer, deputy treasurer, and district clerk.
I'll motion.
Any discussion? Just board, I think this is, item E is just the board officers. We'll go, yeah, the regular meeting, I
That's the
think we'll,
reorg.
this is, yeah,
Yeah, that's the regular meeting.
nope, it's okay. Anybody else? All those in favor? Okay.
Yep, I was gonna take a roll.
Do you give it, or do I?
You give it.
I, Pearl Horn, do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New York, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of district clerk according to the best of my ability.
Oh, we're talking more than that.
No, I do them.
Oh, okay. I thought I read that. Thank you, Pearl. Welcome back. Okay, on to item F, board appointments. Got to get a motion to accept item F in its entirety.
All motion.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Thank you. Okay, on to item G, designations. Got to get a motion to accept item G in its entirety.
Sorry, I'll motion. It's not in the detailed one, it's in the non-detailed one. I'll motion.
Any discussion?
We do have to, are we doing that after? I think we gotta fill it in
Got to fill it in right now
before we approve it.
before we approve it. So we got adopted board members is,
Are you gonna be the board representative in D? You skipped
no, I didn't. I attended it.
We're not going to it, but it's done remotely.
that. No, he's for the Oswego County.
Oh, got it, yeah.
Oh, for the SBA?
Yeah, you did it last year, so I just didn't know if you wanted to.
I'll do it again this year.
Sorry, Steve.
That's why I love you as VP. Okay, adopted board members. So we have A.A. Cole, Brewerton Center Square Middle School, Hastings Mailer Elementary School, Millard Hawk Elementary, Paul V. Moore, Transportation and Maintenance Center. Lori, we'll kick off with you. What would you like?
I'd like the high school.
Okay. Ken, middle school? You writing these down, Pearl? You're awesome. Mr. Tackman?
I will take Millard Hawk.
Millard Hawk? Ryan? Word it is. Mrs. Douglas?
I'll take maintenance.
Miss Maury? A. Cole? So that leaves
I'll take transportation.
transportation?
What's that leave?
Hastings Mallory.
Hastings.
So then Brian's got Hastings Mallory? Is that the
Well,
one we're
Did you want Brian to take Hastings?
So he gets for not being here.
So he'll go to Hastings. Brian, he's not here.
Now we have maintenance?
You did
You
maintenance.
just said maintenance.
You might-
Oh, Allison said
You might
maintenance.
rather take the high school, because his stepson goes here. So why don't we give him the high school, and I'll go back to Hastings.
No, I think it's good sometimes, like if you don't have a kid at school, maybe it's better. Do you want to do high school?
Yeah, if you want the high school, Lori, I mean, he's not here.
Yeah, take the
you
high
know,
school.
so
Yeah. You snooze, you lose, is that what that means?
If he's not here, he gets voluntold.
Right.
Volunteered.
Plus, Laura's got a kid in that school, too.
Yeah, grandkid.
No, teacher. Her daughter.
Right, her
So
Hastings.
who are
Yeah,
we?
she's taking the high
Who are
school.
we
I know,
missing?
that's what I'm saying. I'm like,
keeping the high school?
Yeah, do we got all of them?
We do.
I think we do. And you got the Oswego County thing.
Okay. Now can we vote on it?
Well, are we, do we need a voting delegate?
Oh, for F, I'm sorry.
yeah, F is what I was originally talking about.
Yeah, I know, yeah, sorry. Board of Education voting delegate, alternate, short, well, this is what we did. I didn't do.
Yeah, you and I have alternated. Does anybody else want to do the voting delegate? You want to do it? Yeah. I think it's fascinating, but now that they did it online, everyone just goes on forever. So just bring lots of coffee to your computer.
We are, but we're
Yeah,
not
but we're
going to
not
New York
going this
City
year, so it
to
would
save
be-
money.
It would be virtual.
12 grand in savings.
Okay.
I had 4+ hours. I couldn't make the whole thing.
Yeah, it was 6 when I did it, and I bailed the last 10 because we didn't care about the last 10. So
Yeah.
you want to do it?
Yeah.
Anybody want to be an alternate?
Alternate?
If she can't do it.
You can put me down. I'll be an alternate.
I think Brian said he wanted to do it.
Yeah.
Yes, he did.
Okay. So now we have the policy committee. We have 4 members. Allison, myself,
I'll do it. Jackman?
Dave.
Wood, there you go.
Tackman Wood. Anybody else?
I don't think we can have anybody
Oh,
else.
that's right, because then we'll have a quorum, so that's 4.
I'll do audit.
Audit committee,
Christy Casey.
2.
So Randy was the other one.
Ryan, you want to be on the audit committee? It's actually pretty good. You learn the ins and out, how the money's accounted for.
3.
3.
Ryan, 2 or 3, you're on that, on the audit committee.
Meetings.
It's just like 30 minutes prior to our, so it's not another day. It's 30 minutes prior to our normal board meeting. Like, turn you guys here.
Okay,
Good?
I think we're good
I
now.
think that's it. All right.
Okay, with those changes, could I get a motion for G?
You want to vote on it? We already moved. That
There,
was during
second it?
discussion. Oh, okay.
All those in favor?
Okay.
Thank you.
Exactly.
Yeah, You have
4th
no,
July.
you have no idea. All right, I got board appointments, item F. I think we can do this, and we've already done that.
We already did that. We're on H.
Sorry.
That's the thing, this one got all mixed up, so now you can switch back to this one. We're here.
Okay, H, authorizations.
Yeah,
Well, you're
He doesn't
right.
have the right.
It's okay. No, it's all right.
we got it.
Authorizations, so,
I'll make a motion.
yeah, I think we just need a motion for that.
Allison
And second, Allison second, any discussion? All those in favor? Okay. Item I, adoption of the Code of Ethics and current district policies, regulations, and procedures. Can I get a motion for I?
I'll motion. Second.
Lori, second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Okay, item J. I think we can do that in its entirety. Can I get a motion?
I'll motion.
Get a second?
Second?
Lori? All those in favor? Okay, item K, approval of New York SIR insurance coverage for the district employees and Board of Education positions. Can I get a motion?
I'll motion.
A second? Any discussion? All those in favor? On to item L, reestablishment of the reserve funds. Can I get a motion?
I'll motion.
A second? All those in favor? And item M, motion to close the annual organization meeting.
I will motion.
Thank you. All those in favor? Okay, so that is closed. Thank you for your patience. Act like I've never done this before. That's all right.
Well, we can do it in front of a stone wall. I can do it. Ryan, we'll get a picture of you that we can put on the site, replace Randy. So before we leave today, I'll go in front of that same wall. We can get that. And for the student board reps.
Okay, I'm going to call the regular meeting into order, minus the flag salute. We've already done that. Could I get a motion to approve the meeting agenda?
I'll motion.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Are you sure you don't have a blue card? No? I love the face. Since
Come tell us how you feel, honey.
She wants more money in her allowance.
We approve that. All those in favor?
yeah. Okay, so on to the next item. I'd like to have a moment of silence for Shirley Jones, teaching assistant from September 1969 to July 2002. She had 24 years of service at the district. Okay, thank you for that. Item D, there is no special presentations to the board, no reports, so on to item E. Could I get a motion for item E in its entirety?
I will motion.
And I will second.
Any discussion?
A couple questions on the list of coaches. When we had met and talked about the budget restraints, there was a talk for middle school modified sports for dropping the programs that we added last year for cost savings. Did that not go forward with reducing the programs?
So we made the change because we were able to remove the weight room supervisor at $18,000 and not have to then cut those positions. So shortly after we had that meeting, the athletic director came back and said, if we do what we were gonna do, we would remove 89 kids from being able to play sports. If I can find that same amount of money, and the 18,000 in the weight room supervision was a huge thing, along with the newly appointed assistant coaches, then we more than made our mark. If the 3% didn't go through, then that was the next thing we'd have to go back to.
Okay. And we did cut some varsity sports, though.
We
But
cut
we-
gymnastics, we were
Gymnastics
down
and
to
hockey?
4, and hockey was never ours.
Okay.
So it was about $2,000 per kid for about 4 of our students.
Right.
So with that, we said we can't do that. However, if a parent were to go through the boosters, not our boosters, but their boosters, to offset that cost, not a pay per play, but if their boosters were able to figure, like if they needed our kids to be able to run their team, then they could figure that out, but it would not be on our end.
Okay.
So we had to no longer send them.
Okay.
Tom,
Yep.
for hockey, I totally get that. For gymnastics, we had talked about getting a list of what the costs for all the sports were and how many, we had, I think Lori had requested it,
Yeah.
what the budgets were for each sport and how many students were involved and things like that, because while we were in that room, that we did have a lot of different information with respect to some of the things that were being discussed for cuts. And for us to cut one varsity program, I feel like it's,
But that program was gonna be cut several years ago, too.
and I wasn't aware of
That
Are we
was
that.
talking about gymnastics?
Yeah,
Yeah.
So the whole thing with gymnastics was the rising cost of using that facility with just 4 of
Right.
our own kids.
Right. And busing.
And, well, then they came up with, they said that we'd be able to use the place at Great Northern Mall, but then the busing of that just knocked that out of the water.
Right.
right.
And then they couldn't guarantee after that 1 year that we'd even still be able to use that space. So given the fact that we only had 4 kids in that,
Right, understood, but if the parents were willing to transport, what was the, I know we had talked about that briefly, but there was some concerns about potential, issues of weather and things like that, but I mean, when we're having practices here at 5 and 7 PM at night, the parents are driving them back and forth anyway.
So the conversation I had with Jamie was that when we have a sport that we have, like we didn't have hockey, that was combined, but that was our sport right there for gymnastics. And given the declining numbers that we've had,
Right.
and it was dwindling to 4, which it could have even been 3 this year, she had said that she was going to bring up 11 7th graders that came out of nowhere, but given the, and they still didn't even take the state requirement there, that test.
Well, but I didn't think, when we were in that room, kind of hedging back and forth about things, there was a different number on the table, and I think a lot of us in that room, at least the ones that I've talked to, might have felt differently if that number was different, and if, I thought we were going to explore that more. I thought there was gonna be more discussion of whether that was gonna be sustainable or not.
So let me just make
thought
sure,
it was
so
a
you,
done
what
deal
you guys
that we
wanted,
were-
so my team thought that that conversation stopped when the 3% had passed. And so before the next budget, what we were gonna do, and starting literally in the fall, because we already know we're only gonna get 2%, so we're kind of ahead of the game on that. We were going to break down all the numbers for music, band, sports, each individual one. We didn't know that that was the expectation for the reorg meeting, was to be able to say the cost for every varsity sport, JV sport. And-
Yeah, I don't know if we needed it for this particular meeting, but
At some point.
at some point, but with, what season is gymnastics? Is that winter?
I'm not sure.
I don't know, there were things that were brought up after that meeting that we had prior to the revote, that when we were trying to figure out if this was, what was doable, if there was a 3%, what it looked like if it was
Yeah.
0. And so, like Fulton was charging us for our players, if we had so many of these gymnastics girls from other schools and we could offset the cost, it seems silly to cut a varsity sport if it could be something in the single-digit thousands of dollars opportunities. And, the 11 or whatever 7th graders that she talked about, it was my understanding that they were trying to schedule those APP tests, but the parents were told that the sport's not going to exist, so they couldn't schedule them. So
Right.
I don't want to bank on the fact that none of the kids took the test if the test wasn't provided, if it wasn't offered to them. So I thought we were going to look into it more. If the 3% passed, we were going to see if we could make up whatever the cost was, whether it was we charge Mexico $1,000 per kid to send their kid here, and if it was only going to end up being $4,000 or $5,000 or $6,000 to have those kids if they were self-transported, to the.
But it's still, and we can continue the conversation,
Yeah.
but it comes down to the coach, the JV coach, we pulled that money out, but when you look at about 11 or 12,000 for the coach, and then you look at the number of kids that we had, even if other districts paid, part of that could be for the coach. So I can, again, circle back with Jamie and say, is that even an option? We would have to find out all the kids that participated in gymnastics from the other districts. Would they be willing, if we did kind of like what Fulton did, to then that could offset the costs? I can absolutely look into that.
Yeah, I didn't know. I thought that was going to get looked
See, and I
into.
thought it was a done deal at our last meeting that we were not going to explore it.
Right, well, and that's what Jamie thought as well, and that we weren't
But
gonna
I-
move forward, but
And it was,
with that being said, just like when we made the decision to save the modified sports by
Right.
getting rid of the one thing, if we can, if the 9 other kids that were on that from other districts agreed to pay a set cost,
stipend or whatever.
that would offset and not be a cost to the district, that's information I can bring back to all of you guys
But
and
I-
say, hey, here's the deal. It's not gonna cost us anything to continue this opportunity.
But I
I'm more-
think if we do that, we have to do it for girls wrestling, because we sent our girls elsewhere. So to be completely fair, we didn't offer anybody else to send their girls in to make it cost-effective. So I think if we do that, we need to keep it, at least fair.
Well, one of the differences was we looked at our own sports first. That was our sport. Girls wrestling wasn't. We only had 2 girls that had signed up when we tried to have it. So I think,
Yeah, we can't create a team relying on other teams, but if we already have a team and other teams want to
Right.
send the girls. Well, we don't know, and that's the point, but for this approval, for this list here, again, this was just my perception, but when I talked to a few people, even at the meeting, I thought, when we kept talking about, this is just a rough draft, this is not, if the budget passed, this is not end-all, be-all of what's gonna happen, we can still have discussions about what gets cut and what doesn't. Right.
Another JV coach before cutting all of gymnastics.
Right.
Would have been played
So-
up differently.
Right,
I brought it up as the discussion because one of the things that we did talk about was any programs that were added
during COVID.
because of COVID or post-COVID would be considered for removal in the event that we have to save money. We offer the sport to kids, but we're offering 2 teams, which means we're busing 2 teams for boys and girls. We're busing 2 teams, basketball, soccer,
You're talking for modified?
modified.
Yeah.
All of those age levels have an opportunity to try out and play the sport. And if they don't make the team, then there's other options for them. But be it a club, be it another sport that may be low on enrollment, they could consider that. And the biggest concern that I have with it is the excessive cost with what it takes to, if one team's home, another team's away. Every time we have a game, we have all those added expenses, referees, busing.
With the extra
It could encourage kids to maybe try another sport. And it also takes out the equation of, it's a matter of time before half of that team is going to be cut at the JV level.
Right, but
So
devil's
building
advocate.
a stronger program.
I get it, but I've had other parents say the exact opposite of that, that these are the only opportunities for their kids to play a school sport. And we all know about participation and what it does for academics, discipline,
I-
attendance.
I definitely agree with, we've talked about this quite often, but we're in a situation where we don't have an endless budget today. So they have to explore other opportunities.
No, I get it, but as
7th, 8th
super-
grade can play community basketball. They
Right.
offer it at that age level.
Yep.
They offer it for soccer. To have 2 teams and spend taxpayer money, we are offering it competitive level.
And I see that, but I also remember the board that did tell me not to micromanage 6 years ago when I have an athletic director that says we have 89 kids that would not be able to play for their school, and that means something. I'm not devaluing your point. I think I'm glad this is being spoken about publicly, because if that's the direction that the board wants to go in, there's going to be a lot of upset modified parents because kids got cut, where it's easy for me to say, it was all
They
discussed
have to come out and
publicly.
vote next time.
What's that?
They have to come out and vote.
Agreed?
I hate to say it, and I hate to be that cold, and I'm not sure how many players we have on soccer. I know basketball is 15. But my own son will be impacted by this decision. He was a manager of one of the 2 teams. So it's not a personal decision for me. It's more in the interest of the taxpayers and, the budget that we're working with.
And I think that we just need to make up some criteria, because what we've been going under, the athletic director, myself, and previous board decisions were how many people it impacts. So if you've got a boys soccer team and you've got 60 kids try out, or double the amount, so whatever that number was, it was double the amount, and then the same amount of girls try out, rather than make all of those cuts. I mean, I do see it both ways.
Sure.
Because busing and everything is a factor. But what I think is important, though, is to get all of the information, because you're going to have people that have a sacred cow. And for the coach loves gymnastics. The 4 kids that were on the team for Central Square loved being a part of it. Rather than say, we can't do it because we don't have the money, if the other districts were willing to pay, like Fulton puts out that number,
Right.
then there's no cost.
Well,
Then,
And I'm not even saying there has to be no cost. I'm just saying it would be unfortunate if we have to cut a varsity program that's existed for a long time. And yes, the enrollment was low. And if it perpetuated at below 5 of our own students, then I would see that. But from what I understood, and again, I'm not involved in gymnastics, I'm just taking information from some parents and from the presentation, there's years where there's 15 or 20. And so had that number been 15 or 20, we probably would have felt differently about that. And so I would hate on a low year to have it happen to be the year the budget didn't pass and we're actually looking at it. I also had some parents of some other, I don't have personal knowledge, but there was discussion of some other very low number, cheerleading or basketball cheerleading or something. There's very low numbers for those.
we got rid of JV cheerleading.
Okay, but, so that's why that information eventually would be helpful, because then if this is perpetuating like we anticipate it is and we have to do, then maybe next year it won't be an option anymore, even if,
Well, this all is good, because it plays into the conversation I had with our cabinet that normally we would have to wait until like end of winter before we could even have the conversations. And yes, we're not going to get the governor's runs until they normally do, but we already know we're only getting 2%. So we can start to have this conversation to say,
Right.
look, if this is the case, this is what we're going to have to, this is the much money that we're going to be getting. This is the cost per sport. This is the number of kids that were on it the prior year.
Yeah.
The other thing, too, is what Jamie is going to do, and it worked last year, was getting already, I believe that he already has the numbers of the kids for the modified soccer for the boys and girls.
Well, right, and if there's not enough to make
Correct.
two
We're not- then we don't.
full-size, then we don't need to have
100
both
we're
of
all on
those
the same
teams.
page there.
Yeah, and then the only other thing, and I don't think it was on this one unless all the coaches were on this, I didn't notice, but as a board, you know, I feel whenever we get into this negotiation, that bowling issue has to be addressed. I mean, we've talked about it. Having one practice for two teams and being paid for your time twice is absolutely utterly unfair, and I don't know how they can even do that, because I feel like the state would have a rule against that. But I understand you've been there, you've tried to address this with them before, but if the coach wants to be paid for the girls' team and the boys' team, both stipends, then I personally think he needs to have two separate practices. I don't think it's fair for him to be paid twice to
I
be in the
agree.
same place at
I
the same
agree
time.
with that.
Because those kids, when he's coaching the girls, they're getting half a coach, in my opinion.
Yep.
And so unless he wants to have separate, which inevitably would add cost,
We
because then
cannot
we're.
we can't
right,
rent that twice.
Right, but then something else, it doesn't even seem like it should be allowed. It seems like it's,
Split the salary, so now we look for another coach, and whatever we're paying him, we split it in two, and we go look for another.
These are conversations that have happened before, but that's why
Right.
I'm glad that one of you will,
but publicly,
are going to be on
that
the
they need to know.
negotiations.
Yeah,
Right.
they need to, that's not, or we get rid of the team and we rewrite it, or some, you know what I mean? Something needs to be done. That should not be allowed. He's in the same place for the same time, and he's getting paid twice. It's just,
Yeah, that's not even
It's not.
ethical.
I agree.
so,
I,
that alone, that savings alone would cover the gymnastics team almost. If there's
but
no
the
transportation
gymnastics
and none of
team-
that, just the coaching.
The
So-
gymnastics team has been in a very strong decline over the past 10 years.
Okay.
And I don't want to see us put a sport out and spend money for 4 kids.
Yeah, and like
That
I
is
said,
ridiculous.
if it perpetuates like that, but again, and I only have the information that I have, which is why when we get that information from Jamie, I'd really like to see, like, last 3 years, how many kids were on the team, what the budget was, what that was salaries versus equipment budget, transportation, so that we can see how this team has trended and how expensive it is, and, of the cost, right, exactly. No, absolutely. Per kid, per student, and, right,
You have to have special staff manning a stadium or a hallway, what does it really cost us truly?
right.
Yeah, and you're going to see, and we did this about 7 years ago, that like obviously football, a helmet is $700 for one
Right,
helmet.
but they
so-
also have one of the strongest booster programs. And so I'm not saying we
But they're
shouldn't
not
get
buying
them.
equipment.
But they could, you know, what I mean, if there was an issue. And that's what I'm saying.
Yeah. That's
I mean,
kind of
soccer, they
touchy.
don't provide shin guards. Those shin guards are brought by the players. You know, like baseball, bring their own bats, bring their own gloves, bring their own catcher's equipment, bring their own, I'm not
Yeah, no.
saying that we need to
No,
do
that's what
that,
we're going to do. So
but-
it'll be each sport, it'll be roughly the number of kids that are on the team, there'll be the total cost, everything.
And what the budget is the budget, this is for this coach's salaries, and here's everything else, what they have in the
Oh,
budget.
it'll definitely be. It'll
You know what
be
I
the
mean?
Varsity, if there's a JV coach, it'll be the coaching salaries,
Right.
it'll be everything.
Yeah, I mean, I would think that should be relatively available
Yeah.
information, so,
The participation, it
Yeah.
plays a key role, how many
Right.
kids are on the team.
right. So then if we see that gymnastics for 3 years straight had 5 or less kids, then that's a different conversation. But from what I was told, that fluctuates a lot, and so,
Not that much.
no?
No.
Okay.
But it'd be nice to kind of see how
Yes.
much cost per pupil in each sport.
Right, and if we could get them, like I said, a $500, $700, $800,000 stipend to send kids, I don't know what it was for hockey, it looked like it was
over
like
$2,000.
$2,500.
Yeah.
I wouldn't expect that, especially if they're getting the space for that year, you know, but they could still contribute towards the cost.
But it would be the busing. So just like, for instance, we were talking about the Grimes situation, before we were able to combine, and this actually runs parallel to that, we were able to have the Living Word kids with the Bishop Grimes kids because of the proximity. But now,
It's not.
to do that, it's 30 minutes away. So we can have the Living Word kids and the Bishop Grimes kids on the bus for a lot longer, or Jason Fellows told me today, it's about $32,000.
To have a separate run.
Yeah, just because they have to bid it out.
There's kids that
for
live in
4 hours.
Cleveland that are on the bus for an hour and 15 minutes.
I get
So-
it. But that's why it's good that we're having these conversations. I'm
Right.
gonna be honest. Most boards don't have these conversations.
Yeah.
And it's important to have these conversations because this board does not rubber stamp. And you
Right.
ask not difficult questions, but important questions because they have to do with the budget.
Well, it's
Budget and
budgetary, yeah. It's
100%.
budgetary constraints, and so that Bishop Grimes' parents made it, they were very creative, and
Yep.
they worked out a solution. If it happens to double their length and they're on the bus, then that's, I don't, they're still getting transported, which is what they asked
So
for.
since this will save me my superintendent report, what we're referring to is a parent had said that there was a place over at CNY Boom Trucking, and it's the very end of our district on Mud Mill Road, and it's exactly 15 miles from there to Ludden. And so that would be the drop-off, and then full transparency, so anyone watching this would know, a parent wanted to know, can they keep it, the drop-off and pick-up still at Brewerton? And I asked Bethany, I didn't think we could. I thought it was where they physically got on, and Bethany corroborated that, and it's where they actually get on. So the drop-off and pick-up would have to be there, so I spoke with the gentleman who owns that company on the phone, great guy. They plow it out. Paragon Plowing Company plows it anyway. And so they have a plan to be able to do that. I sent Jason Fellows over today. He said it all works out. He spoke with them. So what we're going to do is we now have to decide to combine the bus run, to keep it combined, right, which would make it roughly 30 minutes longer on the bus. Either way, it's going to be able to have a run. So it's going to let let Bishop Ludden Grimes know that if you have anybody enroll from the Central Square School District, you can let them know that that's an opportunity for that pickup and drop-off spot, which I'm hearing right now is only 3 kids.
Okay. And in terms of the length difference or anything like that, does that get us into any situations with respect to CBA?
No,
or-
because it's still.
There's no one that's close?
No,
Okay.
and you know what? I think Dave brought up a good point before. There's like 7 new STEM schools in the city of Syracuse. Like 2 of them just this summer opened up as well, but they're all outside of that.
Okay.
Thank God, because there's no way we would be able to have
And is
the
that
bus driver.
mandated if it's within 15 miles?
Correct.
We have to, okay.
Correct.
Tom, can I just say one thing? It's
Yeah.
me, the voice over here. Regarding fall sports, so Family ID opened July 20th, so that's just next week. So if there's going to be a decision about fall sports for this year, that needs to, because the season starts earlier this year, so just FYI for that.
But we need to determine what season, because I know it goes.
On the website,
It says fall. All right, so then tomorrow I will get with Jamie Grimshaw to see what that total cost is, let you guys know. Write that down.
Any more discussion? And I think that it's important only because of the budget. This conversation is going to be needed later on it's going to be reoccurring. And I think we're forgetting of the makeup of reserve funds for this year that we won't be able to perpetuate down the road.
Right.
So
Yeah.
these are all conversations that we're going to have. Okay. Thank you for all that. All those in favor? Okay. On to item F, consent agenda. Okay, can I get a motion to accept item F in its entirety?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Okay, item G, reports. Emma, you're up. This is your time. We won't put you on the spot too much. If you're not ready, that's okay.
So this usually, Emma, is a time where school's not in session, but when it is, you kind of, like we talked about in your interview, you get the voices of maybe different concerns or things that highlights that you want to be able to mention here that were really good.
I like how you guys talked about how fall sports are coming up soon, because a lot of my friends do different sports. So I think that just addressing any issues that have to do with fall sports and getting it out to the public and parents and everything is something that we should get on, because a lot of people don't know the issues that have been brought up. Like, I personally didn't even know that we were cutting the gymnastics program. So I think, like you guys said previously, I think that's a good thing to bring up because there are a lot of kids that participate in fall sports, and it's because it's football season or things like that, it's one of the more popular sports times. So I think getting out any kind of information for that is good because people are going to want to know that stuff.
Okay. Thank you very much. We look forward to the year. Board members' reports. Does anybody have anything?
I just wanted to comment on graduation, for all the efforts that went in for a successful evening. It's enjoyable to be there and be a part of it and seeing all the work behind the scenes to put it together. And, once again, congratulations to all our grads.
Yeah, it was a great event. I tell people, because they say, oh, you go, and I said, there's not many times in life that you can attend a function where there's that many happy people within, sometimes it's a sporting event, but sometimes you go in there thinking you're going to happen, and you end up leaving very, very sad. But it's truly a great thing in the community to have that many people and have that much happiness. Anybody else have anything for the
Kind of
board?
to piggyback off of Dave a little bit, I don't know. To piggyback off of Dave a little bit, that is so loud, I'm so sorry. I think that it's really nice, just as a parent of a graduate, when I say to my son, what's a couple of the things you're gonna miss? And he literally lists his principals and all of the administrators behind us. When I was growing up, you were terrified of the administrators or the superintendent, right? You weren't like, I'm gonna miss Mr. Booth in the hallway, because that's how he talks, and like he's gonna miss Kristen and giving him snacks, and like the fact that he has this positive experience and he's not like one of those kids, right? Like he is a goofy jock, and the fact that like he had so many positive things about all of his administrators to say he was gonna miss, I think that says a lot about what we're doing here, about the environment we're exposing our kids to, and it's something to take away from all of the muddy messiness of this budget stuff going on, is that what we're doing is working and the kids are happy and they feel accepted.
Yeah.
I don't know, it's just a little something to take away.
Yep.
Yeah, I'll just do a final thank you for everybody on the board. You guys do an awesome job, and last year was, I think, a great success. It had a lot of sorrow, but it was a success, and I want to thank you for that. And for upcoming things, a to-do list that we have is, so if you want, we've got the schedule together, so if you want to talk about, have somebody come in and talk, I talked about it at the last meeting, just let me know, time frame wise. Like I said, I'd like to have the BOCES superintendent come in. We do have the counseling that's going to be in September, so if there's somebody that you'd like to have presented, talk about. The other thing, maybe having the middle school come in and talk might be something that I would be interested in to see how they're doing. So, yeah. So the school, we used to do it, kind of on a regular basis, where we'd have all the principals come in, but it's a lot. But to me, it's about trying to make the normal things normal. So if they know that in February they're expected to be and make the presentation, they know that it's scheduled, instead of saying, the opposite of that is, I've heard some issues at this particular school, let's get them in next meeting. That's really not how I think the best approach is. So
It's October.
It's October.
That's what we're gonna do. Yep.
yeah,
Gives the principal legs under him to be able to acclimate himself.
yep.
I think we should also, start to invite maybe once a year the BOCES superintendent in here.
Yeah, I think he said that.
Yeah.
We're gonna have that
Yep.
on
He's gonna come right in. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that.
Yeah, so, think about it, let me know, and then we can, who'd you like, and then we can, I'll get with Pearl, and, we have Maureen's, her 8 presentations.
If you can do it in 3 weeks, Maureen. Okay, we've seen it in 3 weeks now, so.
It's true.
Yeah, but and then I think, we have the standard, I think, reading scores. I think we can stick with that. Aaron,
Our favorite.
our
And
favorite.
I think the conversation that we were having about like sports and coaching
that's-
and
yeah.
teams, I think it literally, we were going to start this off in September was what are we going to go out at next year, right? Because if we know we're already going to get 2%, so now we're great conversations because there are going to be some upset parents because there's only so much sports we can save. They're going to see some things that they're not seeing with the 5:30 late bus. And then that's where I really need this community to say, no, we want this and we're willing to invest in that. And if those numbers are reflective of what they approved, 1,783 to 780 or whatever that was, it passed by over 1,000 votes. If that's the case, we're not going to wait until spring to have this conversation. It's going to be a conversation all year round.
I think that's good.
Yeah, because I think, you know, we have the next round of capital projects coming up. I mean, it's been Herculean, the amount of work that's been done in this district since I've been on the board. I mean, again, it's like normal where we've gone and remodeled another elementary school like it was nothing. And it is a big, big deal. You know, I drive by Lakeshore Elementary, and that is still a disaster, you know, as a remodel project on Lakeshore Road in Cicero. So, it's all tore apart.
CNS, right?
Yeah, that's part of CNS, but it's been completely closed. So, you know, there's a lot of great things. You know, it's about getting it all scheduled, getting folks in that are, you know, people that you want to hear from is really what I'm looking for. So we have another great year.
And Tom, just to piggyback off of what you had said earlier with respect to athletics, you know, it might make sense for Jamie to do a presentation like he did this year, but more focused on that aspect of it than just, I mean, we want to hear about the successes in the honor roll and things like that, but also talking and maybe being available for questions with respect to the eventual data that we get from, I want to make it, it's not just sports, right? I mean, it's band, it's all of the extracurriculars and the costs associated and what it's been trending in terms of cost versus, you know, all that.
I'm in agreement because we can't operate like we operated before. The girls, we wanted a varsity flag football. Let's make it happen. We had the numbers, participation, and band. I mean, we have so many different positions with field band and
You know my
parade
feelings
band.
on that.
There's hundreds of thousands of dollars in that. And if you talk to people where that's their sacred cow, they'll fill this place with band people if they heard that something. So it's super important that we do have those presentations and they happen year round. These conversations are going to be regular conversations so that nobody can say, well, I didn't know that or I didn't hear about it. We'll do the road shows. We'll post things on social media, but I know that was another big thing is people said, well, you know, you guys don't let us know when the board meetings are.
Yeah.
So there's a website and it says it, but what we're going to do is we're going to make it where when all the principals, when they're sending home their weekly or bi-weekly newsletters, they'll say when the board meeting is. So anybody who wants to come to it, they can come to it.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great idea. And in terms of going forward, you know, it'll make it, having that data all available, it will make it, I would much rather see things trimmed than see things cut outright. You know what I mean? And so to the band, like if there's 27 positions for one, you know, I think that's an exaggeration, but you get what I'm saying? Like, can we make it happen and still have that program with 15? You know, like things like that. So I know union, I know contract, we've got very strong.
Busing is a big factor. Do we have the driver to bring a person out?
Yep.
Like, we'll put all those factors on paper because
Yep.
then it's objective instead of subjective. You can
Right.
look at it and say,
It makes
"There's
sense or
5 kids
doesn't."
in this sport, this is what the cost is. As much as those kids are passionate about it, it's not
Right.
financially wise to do it.
Right.
You know, to Christy's point, talking about things, you know, maybe it's a conversation as well when we go out to contract or out to bidding, you know, when we look and we're meeting with the union, we can say, you know, maybe if we trim, you know, $500 off of each coaching position or whatever, right? Like, I mean, let's all invest in these children because if we took $500 off of each coaching position, I know it's a hot topic, but then the children wouldn't miss out. And we're in the business of education. We serve the children. We don't serve the adults.
Yeah.
But when you're on the negotiating team, you'll walk out of there going, did that really just happen?
Yeah.
Did they really just ask that? And so then there's no curtain. So
Right.
when you see those things, because I agree, or in some districts it caps off, right? After 22 years of coaching, you're not
Right.
You're not making $27,000.
Right.
Or 36,000, like we have a coach that's also a teacher making 36,000 just coaching.
Right. And even further to that point, I think I wanted to, in the reports section, but I forgot to do it. There has been a lot of talk about the summer camps, that were district funded, that are no longer being district funded, and that was understood when the budget didn't pass. That was one of the first things, that was a convenience. The things that are conveniences had to go back to, you can pay $25 or $40 or $50 per student. That's all fine and good. There are some coaches still volunteering their time, still doing summer workouts, still doing that, and I want to give them a round of, applause, give them the gratitude that they deserve, because there's been other coaches who have basically said, well, if we're not going to be paid to run that, then I'm not doing it, and again, I know our hands are tied with contracts and things like that, but that's things going forward for me, and I don't want to speak for everyone, but for me, that matters to me, because if a coach is willing to invest their time in the team, that's important to me. If you're not, then, that, to me, that reflects something,
And I had these conversations publicly with Jamie all the time, because I coached 3 varsity sports in the 10 years I was a teacher. And if you're a varsity coach, that just meant you did a summer team, right? So my summer team for Casanova hockey played at the Twin Rinks. I didn't get paid for that. That was because I was the varsity coach. And then I was in the weight room 3 days a week in Casanova with those kids. You didn't get paid for that, but it's not isolated just to Central Square. That's kind of where things are when there was like $8 million per district for COVID money, and everybody got paid, hundreds of dollars an hour, use it or lose it COVID money, and then people were like, I could buy a boat with all the stuff that I did. Now you're telling me I'm not getting paid to
well,
do
and
that?
it should be something that was appreciated as a temporary, a temporary benefit that they had, not be an expectation to persist. But again, I just want to give kudos to the coaches that are taking their time regardless of the fact that they're no longer being paid extra to do it, to continue to. Right, and that's what I want to make sure, it should not go unnoticed. And if it's not, that's something going forward. If it's not spelled out, if you're a varsity coach, to your point, they get paid a lot more money than modified. So modified is 8 weeks of a season, and they don't do a ton outside of that. Varsity is getting paid a lot more money, and the reason is because, it's a higher level of competition, but it encompasses more of a commitment to the team on a, not year-round, but off-season basis as well. And if that's not spelled out in those contracts, then we should be working on that as well.
Anybody else? You're up, Tom.
I just want, the one thing that I was just going to say was capitalizing on the graduation. It was fantastic. It was probably, that was my 9th. It was probably the most efficient and smooth. And I do want to give a shout out to Dr. Heidi Sweeney. I'll tell you this, when you stand next to the person that the kids all come by and shake your hand, but I would say there were about 140 kids that connected with her on a personal level, that they initiated that conversation on something that she did for them, or, that to me was powerful. And the kids wanted to hug her, thank her. And I know, no relation, but the next Sweeney, Tom Sweeney, who's the principal, is very similar to that as well, people oriented. But to me, that was the most special part of the whole entire ceremony, was the personal connections that the kids would have when they'd come through and got to, thank their principal. It was pretty powerful. Besides that, we're cranking away. Like I said, we're already, Maureen and I, having conversations about budget because we know that we're getting 2%. So we need to get ahead of the game and get it out there to the masses. I talked to a lot of people. If you ask Pearl, probably about 400 people since when it failed to when it passed. And they were saying, put out the same budget, we'll pass it. We just didn't. We thought it would always pass. And so I do think it was a wake-up call for people realizing, you know, we need to get out there, we need to vote. But on our end, more than ever, every time you get a bunch of people together, super important to remind them about the budget process and that here's our numbers. If you have questions or concerns, if you saw something on a website that you thought somebody was getting a 9% raise for, ask us. We're very transparent. I was asked to come to some Pop Warner football to meet with them. One of the gentlemen stayed after one of the last board meetings, and I gave him my cell phone number, said, whenever, I don't care, just give me a half-hour notice. I'll show up wherever you guys meet, and I'll talk to parents afterwards, because it's getting that information. Like Emma said, most students don't really follow along what happens at board meetings, but here's the deal, most parents don't either. And so there are a lot of big-time policy discussions that this board has been tasked to address. It's super important that people are aware of those things. So you're going to play a key role when it comes to student voice as well.
Because you can take that back to them, what
Yeah.
happens here.
Because you're going to be regularly meeting with student government. You're on student government. You're going to be joining student government. Fantastic.
Tom?
Yeah.
Did you want to talk about the other thing that we were talking about before?
Yes,
came
let
down
me
here?
do that real quickly. I had sent you, all of you, an email. You're all busy, you're working. I don't know if you saw it, but the governor had come out. You're talking about cell phones, correct? The governor had come out, well, in her fashion, with more information on her website that basically says that it needs to be bell to bell. So, Emma, this is going to be a key role for you if you're getting a student voice. But there are some categories and caveats that there are some exceptions. Medical, if a student has a medical reason, if a student has it clearly even says it on there, like a note from a psychologist, which I think we're probably going to see about 300 or 400 of those notes appear. And then the other thing too is educational purposes. So we were out of the gate, and I'll just give the quick spiel. Mr. Lucas, I don't know if you knew how it all transpired, but September 30th of last year, we met in this room. We had a pretty good showing for a forum. We had parents, we had students, we had community members, staff members, and it was pretty much the feedback we got it mirrored the feedback we got from 3 Google surveys, students, parents, and staff. And nobody was looking to completely ban them, right? So they realized kid needs to have the phone. At some point, I forgot my cleats, or the parent has to say, hey, we're working late, get your little sister off the bus kind of thing. So Steve really opened our eyes to ChatGPT and did an executive summary in minutes. It was amazing, of about 500 pages of feedback. It was great. And so it ended up becoming our policy. So we were out of the gate way before the other districts, because at that point, the governor was just saying about the negative impacts, distractions in classrooms. So our policy addressed that. You can't have it in the classroom, right? Simple. But then in early spring, she shifted gears and said, I want a complete ban pushing these yonder pouches and things like that. And not only in classrooms, but literally bell to bell, not in passing in the hallways, not in study halls, not in lunches. So what we're going to do is just add one little part. So Aaron's going to have a policy committee meeting. We'd like to do that over the summer so that the second reading is ready to go to meet the governor's really quick timeline, which I don't know if a lot of districts are going to be able to make it. But we'd like to be able to make that timeline where basically just says the policy is what it is, except the one part in there that said that the teacher and the school district has the right to educational purposes. So they'll be locked in the lockers. If a teacher says, no, I use it for educational purposes, and we have a lot of ones that use them in a great way, they put it in their bags, they take them out of their bags for that classroom, and then they go away. So if they're in the cafeteria, we are assuming that they are using it for the right reason. And some people, and I put this in the little email today, my son does. He's in 7th grade. I had made a monetary bet. I wanted to see if he can get 100 average. He did. So what he does in accelerated math was he would literally do homework, take a picture of it, upload it right to ChatGPT, and say, is this correct? They'd say the first one's correct, the second one's not correct, but it was in the second step that you got it wrong. Try this, give him a quick tutorial. Then it was like, would you like 3 or 4 other sample questions? Yes, I would. Answer those. You got them perfect. Here's 2 more, higher level, just to see. So there are kids that do that. We have some kids that are sitting here during lunch, and they do day trading with the stock market. I won't mention any names, but it might be one. Oh, he graduated, so I can say it. Her kid made good money doing day trading. So it's like are we keeping these away from kids that literally in a matter of months they're out of here and they're going to have to be able to do that? So we know in the classroom it was a distraction. No one doubts that. In the lessons, they were removed. But to think that we're able to then police in the cafeteria or in the hallway, we don't have enough monitors. We don't have enough cafeteria administrators to chase kids around. And then she also made it very clear you can't suspend a kid for this. So what does that mean? When it becomes insubordination, then can you suspend a kid? So we think we have a simple tweak. She'll have the policy committee meeting, and we go from there. Now, if there's a kid that's bullying somebody using their cell phone, we treat that like we always would, and the kid's suspended for harassment. It's not just because he did the cell phone there. It's because you can't bully people online, or in person. So that's the one thing that we were going to do. Aaron, did we get an idea yet when we were going to have that? Okay.
I'll have to look. I might be out of town.
Can you have other board members?
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, if you let us know that if you need people, just send out an email and we can make sure. It was just before the meeting, right? Yeah. Half hour before the meeting.
Yeah. It's not a board meeting that day.
We've got to have 2 readings in order to
Yeah.
board meeting in August, then it could be the first reading August 5th or whatever, or the second reading the end of August, or.
Yeah, but we have a cell phone policy.
Here's the
Right.
only thing, though. We have to tweak one part in the existing one because one of the punishments said in-school suspension. We're not allowed to do that
We
now,
have to tweak a few parts.
based on what the governor said for compliance.
So you just need to approve the amended one.
Yeah.
Okay,
We
So-
have to work through some things in
okay.
Okay. Yeah, if you can just, if you have a specific day, or even if you're flexible on when that is, you could circulate 2 or 3 days and you could see who, which one.
And it can be during the day, like whenever's convenient for you
I
guys.
can do during the day easier
Yeah.
than at night, so.
Yep.
Yeah, I can too.
That concludes the superintendent report.
Okay. Thank you.
Well, Mateo's not here, so
Mateo's not here.
throw me off.
Pearl, do we have to do each item of H individually, or?
Has to be done separate, so not this time.
Okay, so we can do H in its entirety?
All motion.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Okay, I will make a motion that the Central Square School District Board of Education hereby move into executive session to discuss matters leading up to a tenure of 20 particular people with no action to follow. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?